Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Tom King and Jae Lee and the situation that went down between them. I believe this happened on Friday. So I find it very odd that this happened this week, or last week now, just because of the timing for me personally. Because it was only last week I did a video, Dune video, talking about the upcoming Boom Studios Dune comic series that's debuting in October, Dune House Atreides. And on the art team for that book is Jae Lee, who's going to be doing some variant covers for the series. So it's strange that this happened just as my interest started to peak in Jae Lee artwork. Not only that, it was this week that I also decided that I was going to finally get around to reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. And the edition that I have is the illustrated Dracula with illustrations by Jae Lee. And I actually bought this edition a very long time ago. It's been sitting on my bookshelf for years. But I've only now just gotten around to reading it. Now, Jae Lee has been in the business for a really long time. And speaking honestly, I was never a huge fan of Jae Lee's artwork. When I say that, I mean his artwork on mainstream superheroes. But I never really got his style until I picked up the illustrated Dracula and seen what his style looks like when he does gothic horror, and then I got it. I love Jae Lee's artwork when he does this kind of stuff. He just knocks it right out of the park. So recently, Jae Lee did a couple variant covers for Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog 2 Wrecked Planet. And I went in on the first volume of Cyberfrog, and I reviewed that comic, and that was some time ago. So when this happened, nobody really seemed to notice. No one said anything about it until Tom King decided to be the moral police of comic books. So this is what Tom King tweeted out, and this is what caused this huge stink on Twitter. Today, DC put out an alternate cover to Rorschach by Jae Lee, who has also done covers for Comicsgate, a hate group. DC does not consult creators on alternate covers. I reached out to them to express my deep disappointment. Far as I'm concerned, this is the cover to Rorschach #1. And the cover below he shows is just the regular cover, not the Jae Lee variant. So, for arguments, I haven't done a video like this talking about Comicsgate in a really long time, or any kind of drama concerning comics on that happens on Twitter. Simply because, in my opinion, over the last while here, I just found that Comicsgate kind of devolved into a dumpster fire circus of just utter drama. To the point now, I don't even know what the hashtag even stands for. I know what it originally meant, but now I don't know, because it's just like a pure chaos right now. I don't even know what it even stands for anymore. So that's why I've just distanced myself from it. But when I seen this tweet and this situation came up, to me, this is such a cut and dry case of what's right and wrong here. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that Tom King is 100% correct when he says that Comicsgate is a hate group. For argument's sake, let's just say he's right. This is still a completely utter piece of shit thing to do to Jae Lee. Especially when you know that Jae Lee is not on social media. Because Tom King followed the tweet up with this. I spoke with Jae Lee. He's not on Twitter. Didn't know Comicsgate existed and doesn't support hate of any kind. We're all good. Best possible outcome. So he should have done this first. This is what you should have done first, instead of being a weasel about it, going behind his back and tweeting that out on Twitter to whip up an outrage mob to come after him and possibly cost him future work in the comic book industry. So Tom King knew full well what the possible consequences of his tweet would have, because he's seen it happen to other people on Twitter. I know he has. Now, if you agree with Tom King and you think Comicsgate is a hate group, but if you still think how Tom King handled this situation is good and just, I think you're a piece of shit. Just like I think Tom King is a piece of shit by doing it this way. How should he have handled it? He should have handled it like a man. He should have, instead of being a weasel and going behind Jae Lee's back and tweeting that shit out, he should have contacted Jae Lee personally before he did anything else and talked to him and asked him, hey buddy, do you know who you're getting in bed with here by doing these Cyberfrog covers? This should have all been handled internally. This should have been just between Tom King and Jae Lee and the people at DC Comics. And the public should have never known about it. That's how a professional should have handled it. So it begs the question, why did Tom King handle it this way? I'm going to get to that in a moment. But Jae Lee actually responded to this. Jae Lee Art. 2 weeks ago, June and I took Loki to San Diego to see a specialist. He did not survive due to complications from the surgery. This past Friday was supposed to be a day of mourning. We were back in San Diego to pick up his ashes. We were going to take him to the beach and comfort each other by sharing our favorite stories about our little boy. Instead, a part of the internet I avoid like the plague came barging in. I had companies I'm working for calling me, friends reaching out to me. I'm seeing hate pouring out of strangers' mouths, accusing me of things I have no knowledge of. I'm seeing firsthand how fast lies are spreading. Let me be clear, I am not part of any group. We never made it to the beach. We spent the entire 6-hour drive home on an emotional roller coaster. I'm writing this because I'm angry. These were irresponsible tweets and are not harmless. They do not just go away. They have real-world consequences. They can take away your job, your life, your memories. June and I were robbed of a special day. So no, we're not all good. This isn't the start of a conversation. This is the end. So please, don't drag me into a world I never wanted to be a part of, nor will I ever want to be a part of. I just want to honor Loki by going back and producing art made with love for people who enjoy it for what it is, something that hopefully brings joy into their lives. Mommy and Daddy miss you so very much, Loki, our love. Now, what a great response to that. I mean, what a professional comeback. What a great response. And in my opinion, Tom King is not 1/10 the man that Jae Lee is. And that's how you handle something like this. But now I want to talk about is why would Tom King even do this in the first place? Is it any concern out of bigotry or hate groups or anything like that? No, I don't think it is. I think it's a much more petty reason than that. I think the real reason is the number right there on this Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign by Ethan Van Sciver. I think it's that number right there that whatever you think of the quality of Cyberfrog or whatever you think of Ethan Van Sciver and all that, one thing cannot be denied is the reality of that number. Because right now, mainstream comics are bleeding money. And they were bleeding money before, and now they're really getting hit hard since this whole COVID situation. And it's almost getting to the point where it's like a make or break time for mainstream comics, where we could probably, where it's not out of the realm of possibility, we could see mainstream comics go away. Because you have COVID happening. Then you had all these store closures before that. Because the customer base for comic books, they're aging out. The majority of people that buy comic books are guys my age, and we're getting older and older and older, and soon we're going to start to die off. There's no way around that. And there's not enough of a new customer base coming in behind us. I mean, there are young people that read and buy comics, but there's not enough of them to keep the industry viable. That's my opinion. So mainstream comics, I think, it's just a place where there's a lot of fragile egos, there's a lot of pettiness, there's a lot of cutthroat backstabbers, narcissistic psychopaths in this industry. So there's a lot of like petty jealousies, all that going on, and these people, I think, can feel threatened very easily. So you have almost like an alternative comic book industry sprouting up and doing very well in a time when mainstream comics are doing very bad. Look at Cyberfrog is killing it. Because you have these YouTubers who build up these fan bases on their YouTube channels, and then they decide to do their own comic book, and they do gangbusters because they have a built-in market because they have a huge YouTube channel. Like recently, the most recent crowdfunded book I got into, went in on, was Tadia by Quinn's Ideas, and that has just been hugely successful. So you have all this going on at the same time that mainstream comics are just dying the slow death. And I think they feel very threatened by this. And that's why they pull stunts like this. To me, what Tom King did is no different from what the mainstream media did to YouTube some years back that caused the ad apocalypse, where the mainstream media ran all these stories about how YouTube was platforming hate groups and all that kind of thing, and whipped up a whole scare, all these scare tactics to get everyone to freak out and then get all these advertisers to pull out of YouTube. Now, the real reason they did that, not out of any concern, not out of any moral concern at all, for hatred or racism or anything like that. It all just boils down to money. They see that they are losing money and their market share of media is shrinking, and the alternative media is growing. And I think that's the same thing here with the comic book industry, and a lot of these people that are on the side of the anti-Comicsgate or whatever is they see that you have this alternative comic book industry that's sprouting up. They're making money. These guys, the mainstream comic book guys, aren't. And with these independent indie guys, they can go around. They don't have to go through Diamond. They don't have to go through comic book stores anymore. They can just make that product and bring it straight to their fan base. And I think that's the real reason. Now, one thing I want to touch on about this situation that no one is talking about is Ethan Van Sciver's end of this. As I saw that Ethan Van Sciver is celebrating right now because of this outrage. All those covers that Jae Lee did for him have the sales for those covers have shot up, because you get all these people now that are doing what I call like protest buying. They're protesting against Sean King by going out and buying up a big pile of copies of the Jae Lee Cyberfrog cover. Now, this is just pure speculation on my part. This is just like a hunch that I have. So this is not something I can prove, but it's something that no one has talked about. But I think it's something I want to touch on. Now, I think I have to wonder, when Ethan Van Sciver decided to get Jae Lee to do his cover. Now, Jae Lee said in that response, he's not online. He didn't even know Comicsgate existed. So when Ethan Van Sciver contacted him to do these covers, I wonder, did Ethan Van Sciver disclose his situation to Jae Lee before they got into business together? Because I think if you're involved in Comicsgate as a creator and you want to hire talent, especially talent that does a lot of mainstream work, I think it's actually very important that you disclose to them what they might be getting into. Like, I think he should have told him up front, okay, buddy, I want you to do these covers for me. I'll pay you well, but here's the backlash you could receive. And I think he should have said that. And if Ethan Van Sciver didn't say that, I think he's just as bad as Tom King, to be honest. If he lied to Jae Lee or covered it up to Jae Lee or tricked Jae Lee into doing covers for him. Now, that's something I can't prove. Maybe, I don't know what conversation went down between the two men, but if that's the case, I think Ethan Van Sciver is just as bad as Tom King in this situation. Because when you think about this situation, the only people that are really benefiting from this is actually Ethan Van Sciver, because the sales is going up, and Tom King, because he's getting all these internet clapbacks now. And the only person is just the only sane, rational one in this situation, in my opinion. Jae Lee is suffering because of it. Jae Lee, who didn't want to be in any culture war. He didn't want to be in any of this comic book drama. He just wants to draw and just live his life, and that's it. And the man should be allowed to do this. And he just got caught up between a feud between two internet comic book drama queens. And I don't know, I just find it there's just something very strange about it, because I know Tom King has a lot of pull in the comic book industry, and he's got a lot of power at DC Comics. I just find it very odd that a white man in that position of power is going to try to cancel an Asian man in the name of social justice. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.